Good evening, and welcome to another edition of the People's Choice here on WCEG Talk Radio, WCEG Network, the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group. We are, as always, speaking life into the community. Ladies and gentlemen, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us on LinkedIn, and also like us in all of these media arenas. We would love for you to join us as we have shows every day that can make all the difference into your life. Again, as I said, we are speaking live into the community. Again, welcome to the People's Choice. I am your host, Joe Flint, all one word, like a tribe called Quest. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a special edition this evening. We will not go the entire hour, but I want to bring to you information specifically concerning the upcoming Georgia elections. We are in the thick of it, if you will, as we are approaching the primary elections here in Georgia. Many of the current candidates and the current offices that are open for election here in the state will really be decided during the primary election. There are some Republican and Democratic opponents on both sides. However, ladies and gentlemen, most of them will pan out in this primary election. Now, understand there is a big push and a big a sounding horn, if you will, for the gubernatorial election as well as the Senate election. I understand, brothers and sisters, that we have one Senate seat that is up for re-election. That is the seat that is currently being held by the pastor of the Ebenezer Baptist Church, Reverend Dr. Raphael Warnock. He is currently serving out the remaining time, of former Senator Johnny Isakson from the great state of Georgia. Brothers and sisters, as you know, Johnny Isakson is no longer with us, but Raphael Warnock has been serving in that position since then, the special election that came about for that seat. However, Raphael Warnock has an opponent, and that opponent, brothers and sisters, is one of Georgia's beloved football legends, that of Mr. Herschel Walker. Now, there are other candidates that are currently in the race, especially on the Republican ticket, on the Republican side of the House. However, on the Democratic side of the House, the main front runner, is that of Mr. Raphael Warnock. And even on the Republican side of the House, the front runner and the former President Trump-backed candidate is that of Mr. Herschel Walker. Ladies and gentlemen, there is, the Senate race is crucial here in the state of Georgia, as it will make the difference for all of the President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris administration. Noted, and I should reference a huge congratulations. I can't remember if I said it on last week, but a huge congratulations to Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Jackson, who has become the first Black female Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. Now, if that's not history, I don't know what else is. And ladies and gentlemen, if I may continue down this rabbit hole for just a moment, and I'll come back to this. If you had the opportunity to watch any of the confirmation hearings, if you had an opportunity to listen to any of the confirmation hearings, you will have noticed that there were a lot, and I mean a lot, of bashing and back and forth concerning her record and who she was and what she stands for, and things concerning, oddly enough, child pornography and other things of that nature. Ladies and gentlemen, some of the same individuals who were prodding and pushing her not to be sworn in or to be confirmed, I should say, as the next Associate Justice are actually some of the same senators that helped confirm her in the two previous roles that she has held on the high district courts in the United States. So it tells me without question on a regular basis, brothers and sisters, that our U.S. senators, the people who serve us in this great nation, that have decided that they will always play politics rather than do what they need to do. Brothers and sisters, it is a sad reality, but our world lives in a partisan world and not that of a nonpartisan society. I wish that we would be more nonpartisan than we are partisan, but the truth of the matter is all of our elected officials at the nation's capital are focused more on their own self-interest than that of the American people. Now, let me say this. I am all for history making. I really am. And I have no problem with Ketanji Brown Jackson's background. And I think that she is beyond qualified for this role. And there's no reason why she should have not been elected to fill this seat. However, brothers and sisters, I do have a problem when people will focus only on the historic aspect and not on the fact of the real change that could take place during this time. So again, I want to congratulate her for that time, and I want to give her all the best wishes and best love from that of the People's Choice here at WCEG, but also from the great people here in the state of Georgia. So ladies and gentlemen, as we go back to the Senate race, understanding that it's because of Georgia, well, I won't say completely, but it's because of the 2 Senate seats that we have in the state of Georgia. Georgia was able to help push her over into that realm of being selected or being confirmed as the next Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. So again, congratulations to her. But ladies and gentlemen, to my understanding and what I've read in past notes and in polls, Herschel Walker actually has a slight, not a huge, but a slight lead over current Senator Raphael Warnock. So I say this to you, brothers and sisters. There is a reason that Herschel Walker was chosen to be the candidate. And if you can't see that reason, I don't know what else to tell you. But the truth of the matter is they could have chosen any individual to go up against Raphael Warnock. But they decided to choose an African-American to compete or run against an African-American. Brothers and sisters, that is a true partisan party. That's true partisan party politics at all costs. Never mind the fact that Herschel Walker has never, ever in his life served in anything that remotely resembles leadership concerning leading and following people, but leading people. But the simple fact that he is a huge Trump supporter, he is a huge supporter of many other Republican candidates in Georgia and has wrote many checks. They decided that they would choose him because he is somewhat, not much, and forgive me, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but somewhat of a well-spoken African-American to choose for the Republican ticket. Now understand, now I've said this on the show a million times plus one. I am not a Democrat, nor am I a Republican. I'm an independent. However, I vote Democrat and I vote Republican. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm not telling you that that you should vote Republican or that you should vote Democrat, but I just want you to take a look at the picture, at the full picture, to see that they chose an African-American Republican to run against an African-American Democrat. I don't know how that could just pan out to be any more coincidental than what it is. So in the Senate race, we have Raphael Warnock competing against Herschel Walker, famed Georgia Hall of Famer. When we move from the Senate race, in the primary election coming the fall of this year in November, all 14 of Georgia House of Representatives, U.S. House of Representatives seats up for re-election. Now, currently, there are some primary elections that will take place in all districts, but however, specifically in the Metro Atlanta area, I want to kind of give way to, there is an election for the 5th district, as you all know, which was held by the famed and renowned civil rights activist, rest in peace, John Lewis, former U.S. Representative John Lewis. John Lewis's seat had to have a special election as well, as he had passed away during his tenure. And for that reason, Nakima Williams was chosen to serve in that particular seat and has been serving in that since then. However, she has to run a real election now, a statewide election. And in doing so, she will be up against a few candidates. Currently in the Democratic House, there is Valencia Stovall and also Charlotte Magbagto. I'm not quite sure if I'm pronouncing her name correct, but Magbagto is another candidate in the Democratic House. However, the two front runners of that race are Nakima Williams and Valencia Stovall on the Democratic ticket. However, for the first time in a long time, well, maybe the second time I'm believing, that there is a Republican contender by the name of Christian Ziem, who is running for the 5th District as well on the Republican ticket. So those of you who live in the Metro Atlanta area, I want you to take note to these specific races, to the U.S. Senate and to the District 5 race if you are in the Metro Atlanta area. Understand, brothers and sisters, for those of you who don't find it important to vote in every election, I need you to know that every election counts, not just the presidential election. And for some strange reason, people feel like they've done their civic duty if only in 4 years they vote one time. Well, I'm here to tell you that your civic duty is not even begun to be completed. Every day or every few months or every year for that matter, in your municipality or around your local area, there is an election that is taking place. And if you are only participating in the one presidential election that happens every 4 years, you are missing so many crucial pieces of elections that take place in and around your area. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. But the big race in the state of Georgia, the one that is on every news station throughout the state, across every social media platform, and everywhere that you can look up anything that concerns an election in the state of Georgia, is that of the upcoming gubernatorial election. Oh, family, we are in for it because we have, once again, coming out of the Democratic corner, coming to bat, swinging left and right every single day, is that of former candidate, now again present candidate, former State House Representative Stacey Abrams for the Democratic ticket. Stacey Abrams is the lead and the forerunner for the Democratic ticket. And brothers and sisters, when I tell you that she is coming full pack and full house and full steam ahead, she is the little engine that could and is doing her best to can win the gubernatorial election. Stacey Abrams is bringing out every stop possible to defeat current incumbent, that of Mr. Brian Kemp. Now, I want to bring to your attention, brothers and sisters, that Stacey Abrams and Brian Kemp went head to head and almost toe to toe and almost teeth to teeth in the last general election for the governor's race here in Georgia. However, Stacey lost just by a small margin, but decided that she would come back out of the ring. So coming out of the Republican corner, weighing it, and I don't know, but carrying almost 4 years of background in this office, is that of Mr. Brian Kemp, who believes without question that he is set to win another term as the governor of the state of Georgia. But not so fast, Brian, coming in just at a close second to you, but coming in at full steam ahead is that of former senator, oddly enough, who was defeated by John Ossoff, former Senator David Perdue, who has decided that he wants to come in again, brothers and sisters, and make a plea for becoming the next governor of Georgia. Now, it must be noted that David Perdue is the cousin of former Governor Sonny Perdue. If you've ever looked at my social media pages at all, you will notice that once or twice I have posted a picture of me and former Governor Sonny Perdue. He found an entourage of other governors and statesmen to travel to Afghanistan when I served there from the 2005 to 2006 year. And I'll never forget it. He was a true Georgia boy when he came in. He came into the clamshell and held his hands up and said, "Where my Georgia folks at?" And of course, Georgia went up in an uproar to have our governor there. Now, whether you were a Republican or a Democrat, it was just good to see somebody from your homeland there to support you in Afghanistan. But now his cousin, his first cousin, as a matter of fact, David Perdue, is running against, who is trying to defeat Brian Kemp in the primary election to then run against Stacey Abrams in the general election. Either way it goes, brothers and sisters, Stacey Abrams will be the Democratic candidate in the primary and the general election, which will take place in November. But the jury is still out on who will be the Republican contender, that of Brian Kemp or David Perdue. Now, Brian Kemp has done something that he believes in truth has solidified his ability to stay in the race. Just recently here in Georgia, the no carry bill was motioned, carried, and moved and signed, and second motion, if you will, by the state of Georgia and signed by the current governor, Governor Brian Kemp. And now you do not have to have a gun license to tote and carry a weapon here in the state of Georgia. Now, let's just be clear, brothers and sisters, you do have to still go through certain background checks, but the truth of the matter is you can buy a gun off the street and not have to buy and not have to carry a gun license. So if you go into a store to buy it, you have to go through a background check. But if you should find yourself being able to find one from Pookie them off the street, you no longer have to carry a weapons license. Now that is twofold. So I want you all, it's probably three or fourfold, but I want you all to pay very close attention to that so that you are aware and don't get caught carrying a weapon and you got felonies or some other stuff that's on your background, because that ain't gonna help you at all. However, in the state of Georgia, you are no longer required to carry a license or to have a license to carry. So Brian Kemp believes that that will definitely solidify him and edge him forward in the race to become Georgia's governor once again. Brothers and sisters, I want you to pay very close attention to this gubernatorial election, because right now it's not Stacey against Kemp or against Purdue. It's Purdue and Kemp against each other. And Stacey is just running on easy, running hard, but running on easy. As we move forward, I want you all to do me a favor because it's very important. Because we don't want any hiccups, and we don't want anybody to have to go back and provide your IDs or anything of that nature. I need all of you all to do me a favor and go to www. Somebody asked me the other day, or one of the younger generations asked me, what does www stand for? And I had to pause in laughter because I realized that all they have known is the internet. I came up when the internet did not exist. So we were very much aware that WWW stood for or stands for the World Wide Web. All right. So I need you all to go to www.mvp, that's Mike Victor Papa .sos, Sierra Oscar Sierra.ga.gov. Again, go to www.mvp.sos.ga.gov to verify your polling location. Why am I doing this? Why am I saying this? As a preacher, I would tell somebody, I'm so glad you asked. I'm asking you to do this because there has been a lot of rezoning and redistricting in your areas. As a matter of fact, one of the ones that comes to mind is District 5. It does not cover all of the areas. U.S. House District 5 does not cover all the areas it previously covered. So you may think that you're going to vote in District 5, but you may be in District 4 now, or District 3, or whatever district. So I need you all of you all, to go to www.mvp.sos.ga.gov in order to verify your polling location because of the rezoning and redistricting that has taken place. That is the My Voter page. And when I think of that page, the first name that always comes to mind, God rest his soul, is my mentor, that of Reverend Albert E. Love. Anytime I think of anything that results in or mimics voting, I always think of the leader, that of Reverend Albert E. Love, who would always say, keep strong and God bless. Oh, I wish I could coin that. I think I may have to start using that again, Reverend Love. I feel you channeling through this broadcast here. So ladies and gentlemen, please do me that favor and go and be a part and verify your polling locations. So again, the three races that we've covered thus far is the U.S. Senate race, which is wrapping up with Raphael Warnock on the Democratic side, with Herschel Walker on the Republican side. Please understand and know, brothers and sisters, that these elections are extremely important. The second race that I mentioned thus far or the U.S. House races. Now, all 14 districts are up for re-election this year, but because, or if you are in the metro Atlanta area, I need you to look at District 5, where there is Nikema Williams and Valencia Stovall, who are the current front runners on the Democratic side, and there is a Republican challenger, Christian Zim. So pay very close attention to that. And then at the recent election that I just mentioned, that of Georgia's gubernatorial election between Stacey Abrams, who is the Democratic candidate and very likely without question will be the Democratic candidate all the way to the primary election. And then we have on the Republican side of the House, Brian Kemp and David Perdue, who are currently battling in their Republican primary in order to decide which one will become the candidate to compete in the forward primary election in November. Ladies and gentlemen, the other race that I want to bring to your attention is that of the lieutenant governor's race in Georgia. Quite often, lieutenant governor in Georgia is the opposite party of our governor. So that, brothers and sisters, sometimes make all the difference in the deciding factors and votes in the General Assembly in Georgia. And he or she will preside over many of those meetings. So for the Democratic side of the House, there are two very familiar names. There are other candidates, but the two that you will know more often than any other name is that of Mr. Kwanzaa Hall. If you are a part of the Metro Atlanta area or have lived in the city of Atlanta, you may have been represented by Kwanzaa Hall in the city council. You will know that he also at one point ran for mayor and was a candidate for the District 5 seat and served for a very short time in that role until the election took place to put Nikema Williams in that role. I need you all to understand that this district, this lieutenant governor's race is just as important. If you understand, you'll know that the two names that I'm referring to are Kwanzaa Hall, and then here's another very familiar name. However, it's Junior. Are you ready for this? Tyrone Brooks Jr. is running for lieutenant governor in the state of Georgia. Oh, come on, somebody. Kwanzaa Hall and Tyrone Brooks Jr. are the Democratic candidates for the lieutenant governor race, as well as on the Republican side of the House, we have the two front runners, very familiar names and signs and names that you're starting to see, that of Butch Miller and Burt Jones. Both are running for lieutenant governor, and both are trying to get the Republican nominee for the primary election, as well as Tyrone Brooks Jr. and Kwanzaa Hall are trying to get the Democratic nominee for the primary election. As I back up here, I want to digress. Please do me a favor. When you visit the www, the World Wide Web, mvp.sos.ga.gov website, even if you don't want to type in all of that, just go into your search box on Google or whatever you use and type in my voter page, or type in Georgia Secretary of State. Now, the site to get you right there, again, is www.mvp.sos.ga.gov. But if you can't remember all that, simply go into your Google search box and type in Georgia Secretary of State. Doing that will take you to the main page, the landing page, and you'll be able to find elections, and you'll click there and you'll have the opportunity to go in and put your information. Now, I need you all to do this beyond finding out where your polling location is. I need you to do this so that you'll know who you are actually voting for, because there are some people who have no earthly idea who their state representative is, who their state senator is. Some don't even know who served them on the local school boards or the local city. They only know who the mayor is and don't even know who their city council member is. It is imperative, family. It is imperative. It behooves you. It is paramount that you go to this site and that you look up who the people are who are currently serving in your local areas. I say this quite often. I haven't said it in a while. The whole premise of this show and the title of the show is The People's Choice, because we, the people, elect the individuals to go and speak on our behalf in these elected areas. and we elect them because we feel that they have our best interests at heart. But if you don't know who they are, how can you believe at all costs or at any cost that they have your best interests at heart if you don't know who you are electing to serve your community? Quite often, and this is just the truth, we have people serving our community who have no earthly idea what the problems and the current situations and circumstances that our community faces. I said this previously on a show with my co-partner, that of Demetia Chapman, that all too often, as you ride around the city of Atlanta, and I know that everybody's not ready to hear this, but Atlanta has been led by Black leaders for more than 50 years now in most areas. And in 50 years, my 40 years, I cannot tell you all of the change that has taken place, but I can tell you that our roads are still jacked up in many places throughout the metro Atlanta area. So I need you all to be able to go and look at the individuals who are currently in your district so that you can make sure that you are electing the correct people. Also up for elections this election year in Georgia are the Supreme Court justices in Georgia. What? Do we elect Supreme Court justices? Yes, we do. You didn't know it? I know you didn't know it. But they are the ones, they are the high court of the state of Georgia. So just like there are things that go to the high court in the nation's capital, there are things that go to the high court in the state of Georgia, and they make the decisions for the state of Georgia. There are judges on this ballot all throughout your municipalities, all throughout the state of Georgia. You have got to go to the Secretary of State's website so that you can see who these individuals are. Why is it important to know who the judges are? Do you not understand that these are the people that make the law of the land? The law of the land. The Supreme Court justices hear cases that are being tried before them, and they decide whether or not it is precedents or not. They are the ones that make the laws that you and I have to follow by on a day-to-day basis. So it's important, brothers and sisters, that we, if you do nothing else, just look up who they are and find out what they stand for, so that you don't have to spend the next 10 years worrying about whatever laws are going to take place in Georgia that may affect you, because they will affect you. And if not you, they will affect your children and children's children. It is important, ladies and gentlemen, that we look closely at this all the time, that we look at these things and know who are running for these positions. I want to bring to you the dates that are very important for you to know here real quick. You need to know, brothers and sisters, that the general primary election, the nonpartisan election, the general election and special election registration cutoff, meaning if you are not registered to vote by this date, because I know some of y'all are not registered to vote. You don't even think it's important to go out here and vote. Somebody told you that voting doesn't count. Well, I'm going to tell you that you and the person that told you that voting doesn't count are idiots, because everybody and everything that takes place in our nation is all depicted by the votes that we set forward, by the people that we elect to office. Every referendum that is on the ballot is voted on up or voted down by individuals. And I always say this: bad people are elected every year by good people who don't vote. Come on, somebody. I heard you in the back in the amen corner. The cutoff registration date to be able to vote in the primary election for May 24th is April 25th. When is April 25th? It is this coming week. If you intend, I think it's this coming week, if you intend to vote in the primary election, which you need to be registered by April 25th in order to vote in the May 24th, 2022 election. Again, in order to vote in the primary election, which is May 24th, you need to be registered to vote by April 25th. That's this month, within this week. Now, in order for you to vote in the general primary election runoff for federal offices, because there's very likely, as always, a runoff, you need to have been registered to vote. So just say that you don't register to vote by Monday, April 25th. But I'm believing as the preacher would say, I'm believing God today. I'm believing that you will be registered prior to Monday. But if not, if you are registered Monday, April 25th, but for whatever reason, if you don't get registered by April 25th, in order to vote in the runoff election, you have to be registered by May 23rd. May 23rd will give you the opportunity to vote in the runoff election. If in fact there is a runoff election, you have to be registered to vote by May 23rd. So if April 25th comes and you don't get to vote, no worries. April 26th, go on and register to vote, but you need to do it before May 23rd so that you can vote in the primary election. As unfortunately here in Georgia, we always seem to have, in the runoff election. In Georgia, we always seem to have a runoff election because we have this 50+1 rule, and that's a whole nother story. But the 50+1 rule applies here in Georgia. And because of that, we will have very likely a runoff election. So in order to vote in that runoff election, you must be registered by May 23rd. Now, in order for you to vote in the general election, which is November 8th, 2022, and that's on a Tuesday. I know that for a fact because all election days are on a Tuesday. We're going up on a Tuesday. Listen, in order for you to be able to vote in the primary election on November 8th, 2022, you must be registered by October 11th. So say for instance, you don't vote in the primary, you don't vote in the runoff election, but I'm not believing that you all are going to be that. I believe that you all are going to be registered and ready to vote in each and every one of them. In order for you to be able to vote in the November general election for the governor's race, for the U.S. Senate, for the U.S. House, for the lieutenant governor, for the judges, for the municipalities, for everything that the state is up for, because the whole state of Georgia is really up for re-election. We got Secretary of State, we got State Superintendent. All of these offices are up for election. In order for you to be able to register and vote in the primary, you need to be registered by October 11th. The other thing is you need to check with your local county voting office to find out if there's weekend voting, because quite often there is some weekend voting. But here's another tidbit: early voting. Because if you're like me, you don't want to wait in the long lines. You don't want to be hassling, trying to run from work, trying to get there. You can do what's called early voting. Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. Early voting in the primary election, brothers and sisters, is May 2nd through May 20th. May 2nd through May 20th. You can get out there and vote early so that you don't have to worry about anything that's going to take place on election day. May 2nd through May 20th are the early voting days for the primary election. I want to bring to your attention also, here in the state of Georgia, there are 3 referendums on the ballot. I told you, there's always something. And what will happen is you'll go in there and you won't vote for it because you ain't heard nothing about it. Or you'll just click yes because you think that's the best way to do it. You say, well, they put it on here, it got to be important, we ought to do it. But it's important that you read and understand these ballot referendums. So the first referendum, I had to get a little closer. I got to read this a little closer. The first one is suspend compensation for public officers indicted for a felony amendment. So what this means is that if you are serving in public office and you get indicted for anything, but more specifically a felony, you are no longer paid. Right now, as the law is written, you could be indicted for a felony, and whatever your salary is in the current state offices in Georgia, you still get paid that same salary. Now, indicted is what I'm saying. Not if you are accused, but if you are indicted, you will not get that same pay. So it allows the suspension of compensation of certain public officials while the individuals suspended from office due to being indicted for felony. So if you're suspended and you're an elected official, you will not be paid. Now, my personal opinion is yes, you should vote yes on that. Now, you're going to vote how you want to, but I think that's the answer, because if you found yourself in this position that you're being indicted for a felony, you no longer need to be getting any money, any of my taxpayer dollars, to pay your salary so that you can hire a lawyer to get you off. No, not on my dime. No, 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 no. Not in my house, as Mo Kimball Tumbo would say. The second one, brothers and sisters, is temporary property tax change for disaster damaged property amendment. So what this does is it authorizes local governments to grant temporary property tax changes for properties damaged by disaster events or located in disaster areas. So say, for instance, there is a hurricane or earthquake or something that comes, and it is deemed a national or natural disaster, or how do they call it? I think it's a natural disaster or emergency disaster. I can't think of the correct terminology right now. But this means that the properties that are affected by this will have a decrease or a change in their taxes, because the bigger issue is that they're having to rebuild. And if truth be told, if it's a mom and pop place, they already are barely making ends meet. And so they need all the help they could get. So it will be a help to change or lower their taxes for them during that time. So again, my personal answer is yes to that. And finally, the last one is merge family-owned farms and dairy farms and egg tax exemption measures. It's a tax and agriculture issue. It expands a property tax exemption to include merged family farms and dairy products and eggs. Now, this only really matters if you are a dairy farmer or a farmer, but it does matter to the consumer, because if in fact they are taxed higher, then guess what? We're going to have to pay more for the things that we consume, such as eggs, such as milk, such as the meat, whatever it is that the farmers are farming. We may have to pay a higher tax. So I don't really know the answer to that one right now, but I am of the belief that we will have that taken care of soon and soon enough. So brothers and sisters, as I said, this was not going to be an extremely long broadcast this evening, but that we were going to hold on and just share with you some important elections that were going to take place. And one of those elections, of course, and I want to reiterate those elections, the U.S. Senate race, the U.S. House of Representative races, specifically District 5 if you're in the metro Atlanta area, the gubernatorial election, and the lieutenant governor races. All of these races, family, all of these races are extremely important in our great state. And all of these races will make all the difference in your life, whether you know it or not. I want to reiterate these dates. Statewide election dates. Primary election is May 24th, 2022. Early voting for that is May 2nd through May 20th. Primary runoff will be June 21st, 2022. November 8th of 2022 is the general election. If in fact, which we live in Georgia, there's always this, there is a runoff December 6th, 2022. It is important, ladies and gentlemen, and I can't stress this to you enough, that we take the time out of our busy schedules. And I know that all of us have busy schedules. I know that if you're a single mother, you're going from one place to the next, trying to secure your children from daycare or from practices, from baseball to basketball to cheerleading to football to volleyball to whatever sport they may be playing. I know that it may be difficult sometimes to go home and cook dinner, so you'll stop by Publix and get you a whole chicken and go and add some sides to it. Or you may stop by Walmart and get you their ranch chicken. Help me, Lord, that's some good chicken. You may have to do that. But understand that in that short time that you are, because all of us are doing this on a regular basis throughout the day, on your lunch break, you're perusing Facebook, you're perusing Twitter, you're perusing Instagram, you're perusing LinkedIn, whatever it is that you're looking for something on this phone. Here's an opportunity for you to just take a few minutes to look at what needs to be searched for and be able to look up your local district. Again, I need you to visit www.mvpmikevictorpapa.sos, Sierra Oscar Sierra.ga, that's Georgia, ladies and gentlemen, .gov, in order for you to go and find out who the individuals are who represent your area. And you can do this all from your phone. You can download the My Voter, My Voter Page app, and you'll be able to do this. And you ain't ever got to go worrying again, searching on Google and everywhere else. You can literally download the app, and you'll be able to find out who are your elected officials and who is serving you. And let me tell you this, when you're more aware and just a little more educated on who's serving you, you'll be more mindful of the things that you say yes to when it comes time for referendums, because you'll know, brothers and sisters, whether or not these individuals actually care about the things that are taking place in your community. You'll know when it comes time to vote for your city council member or your governor or your state representative. You'll know who they are and how they actually represent you at the current level, because understand, all of these people are our choice. They're the ones that we have decided that are well enough, that are educated enough, and they're smart enough to serve in our local electorate, whether again is your school board, whether it's your city council, whether it's your state government, and whether it's the national and federal government. And these individuals have been elected. The question was asked, why aren't we able to vote on our phones? Well, that is an extremely good question. I think that is a bureaucracy issue, but I think also there's a concern, and don't shoot the messenger. I think there's a concern for individuals who may be able to find other people to vote simultaneously on the app. Now, like everything else, there are security measures. And so we'll have to look further into that. That'll be a story, that'll be a show. We'll come back and present that to you, why there is a push to vote on the phone, why is there a push to not vote on the phone. But the question is asked and the statement is made. We are able to do online banking. We can do almost everything else online. Heck, I can even pay child support online. Why can't we be able to vote online? It is important that we be able to use this tool for everything else that we have in our life. And brothers and sisters, I want you to be able to have this opportunity. So we will revisit this and examine the ability to be able to vote online, vote via our phones. Well, we've come to the bottom of our hour today. As I said, this would not be a full hour show, but I wanted to update you and give you a few updates on the current status of our gubernatorial elections. Understand, ladies and gentlemen, it is very important, very, very important that you put your best foot forward and that you pay attention to all of the individuals who are currently seeking to serve in your local area. Because if not, you will find yourself in another 4 years of what you may not deem is equitable for your community. As I always say, bad people are elected good every year by good people who don't vote. Your voice matters. Do not be silent. The only time that you should ever have nothing to say is when your tongue is glued to your mouth and your eyes are glued shut and you're laying in a casket, too proud to speak. That's the only time you should never have anything to say. At that point, brothers and sisters, you can't vote. But while you still have breath in your body, come on, somebody, I feel like I might take a text here. While you still have breath in your body, you ought to be able to exercise your right to vote so that we can all see and get to that promised land that our famed and loved Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. always said. And he said, there's a promised land. And brothers and sisters, there's indeed a promised land of a greater America, of a greater Georgia, of a greater nation for us all. And that is when we can all sit down at the table of love and reason together. This is your host, Joe Flint, all one word, like a tribe called Quest. And this has been another edition of the People's Choice here on WCEG Network, the Community Empowerment Group. I thank you and I love you. Have a good evening, everyone.